One of the big news coming out of Asia is the recent elections inside of Afghanistan and the tremendous turmoil that has surrounded them. Now, of course, this is a very typical election inside of Afghanistan, and of course has been marred with a great deal of violence due to the breakdown, or should I say, the sabotage of talks between the United States and the Taliban, which were canceled by U.S. President Donald Trump after a U.S. soldier died from a suicide bombing inside of the country as a part of a war that has now been going on for almost 20 years. Now, the vote count will still take several weeks, and the preliminary results are not expected until mid-October. However, the problem is that the voting process has been a terrible mess. Now, aside from the violence that has marred the election, some 500 polling stations have failed to open for various reasons, including a lack of ballots. Now, if you have an election but you don't even have the ballots, clearly the Independent Electoral Commission inside of the country is not doing their job. I mean, you're kind of dysfunctional at this point. If you have an election but don't put any ballots out, and 500 stations didn't get the ballots, I mean, that's kind of a problem. Now, apart from that, the country's Independent Election Commission had failed to establish contact with 901 of the 5,000 presumably functioning stations for reasons that are yet undisclosed. So, in other words, of the 5,000 stations, voting stations that are out there, 901 of them, they don't have any contact with. Again, that's also a very major problem, and that really is, I mean, these elections could not be any worse. I mean, there's a reason why Afghanistan is less listed in the World Corruption Index as the most corrupt country in the entire world, and this would be a pretty good indication of that. Now, there are 18 candidates that are running for president, which is a hell of a lot, including the country's incumbent president, Ashraf Ghani, who's been, at least to some degree, a critic of U.S. actions inside the country, mainly the killings of civilians. Now, several suicide bombings occurred across the country during the day, including the capital of Kabul. Now, this has had one of the record lowest turnout of voters. People in Afghanistan don't have any faith in the elections whatsoever. They don't believe them. And they have very good reason not to have any faith in them, given that one is one of the most corrupt countries in the entire world, and that the United States essentially handpicks who's going to be the country's president. Now, we remember Hamid Karzai, who was the first president of Afghanistan after the U.S. invasion of the country. He essentially gave the United States a free hand to do whatever it wanted. However, once he was out of office, he became a very loud critic of the killings inside the country, which he didn't really criticize when he was the president. Now, he did make criticisms, but he wasn't so outspoken about them, because he wanted his money, he wanted his power, and probably the amount of bribes and corruption that comes with being the president of Afghanistan. So it's very interesting showing how they can walk into that office to lie in their own pockets, and they have a moral outrage after they leave. Like they didn't know what things were going to be like there. I mean, we're not talking about grabbing, peasant farmers off the land and making them president. We're talking about people who are educated and very often Western educated. They know what U.S. imperialism does. They know what puppet governments are. They know the history of all of that, and then somehow they think it's going to be different this time, or maybe they just don't care because they want to line their own pockets through their own corruption. And trust me, Hamid Karzai was accused of a great deal of corruption during his presidency. But one of the factors for this very low turnout has been the sabotage of the peace talks with the Taliban that was canceled by the current president, Donald Trump. One U.S. soldier dies, that's it. Peace negotiations over. Apparently, the 1.5 million Afghanis that have died as a result of the war, I guess they don't count or whatever. But that's U.S. imperialism for you. So it will not be until at least a couple of weeks until we know who is going to be the new president of Afghanistan. It's probably very immaterial at this point. It's going to be another U.S. puppet, which will continue the same problem that already exists, and the U.S. will still continue to carry out its illegal and immoral occupation of the country. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.